Welcome back to MKE Gadgets. Today we're going to make a push stick for a table saw, and we're going to do it my way. There's a lot of videos out there that says the best, the ultimate, the one and only, this and that. Well, this is not going to be any of those. This is going to be how I do it. So that's why I named it my way. So in anticipation for this video, I went and rounded up all my push sticks I had. And this is I got free with my saw. And I have a saw stop, and I've used this and I didn't realize it, but hit the blade a couple times. I have this one with the rubber, and this is nice because you can kind of press down on it and it keeps the wood tight against the table. And then I bought these aluminum ones quite a few years ago, and I forgot I had them. And I have a saw stop, and if you're not familiar with that, it has technology that detects flesh and it stops the blade cold. But also anything that conducts electricity. These are aluminum, so I can't use these. I was looking at these, what could I do with these? And I'm like, okay, well, I could cut them off and make a ruler out of them, or a ruler with an orange handle, but I don't know. I'll make something. Someday you're gonna see these in a video. So a few years ago, I made this one out of just some scrap plywood and a piece of oak I had. And it works pretty good. I like the height of it. It's pretty tall, so you can push it away. Keeps your fingers way away from the blades. It has a sacrificial piece here, and I just screwed it in with some deck screws, and it kind of came loose, and it's been chewed up a bit. But like I said earlier, I don't want any metal or anything that can conduct electricity by my saw stop. So we're gonna fix that problem today. So I went through my scrap wood pile, and I go, oh hey, look at this. This piece of plywood would be perfect. It seems like I'm always sawing thin pieces of wood, so I want to use the thinnest piece of plywood I have. And that could be easily cut out of there. And I thought, well, okay, that would work great. But then I was thinking a little longer. And then I remembered I had these pieces of Lexan or polycarbonate laying around. And I thought, well, this is thinner than any plywood I have around. It won't soak up moisture because, you know, it's plastic. And what am I going to do with an odd-shaped piece like this? So I took my previous one I had, and I go, look at that. I could cut that out of there really easily. But how do I make this piece? So I made this little piece of wood on my Bridgeport Mill, and that would go on my piece of plywood. And I could screw it on there. I can make it adjustable so it could slide up and down. But again, I don't want any metal. So I went to my local hardware store. You know, the kind where people know your name and they know how to fix things and they know where the stuff is in the aisle. And I got this nylon 1024 bolt and a nylon 1024 wing nut. Well, I can drill and tap into my Lexan, and that will fit in there real nice. Tighten this down. I'll make a new piece of this a little bit longer. It can slide down, slide up, and if one end gets chewed up, you can flip it around and use the other end. And this will fit perfectly in the space in here on my Lexan. I have a piece of maple scrap that'll be perfect. I'm going to cut it off about 4 inches. We'll mill a groove in there, and then we'll mill a slot in there. So let's go over to Bridgeport Mill. So we're over here at the Bridgeport Mill, and I know not everybody's going to have one of these, but you could use this on your router table or your table saw just as easily. I'm using my Bridgeport because that's what I have. So I found the center of the board in the Y direction, and in the X direction, I got a little pencil line there. This is a same size Lexan, and it's 232 thousandths. So we want to make a groove that's 232 thousandths wide. To do that, I'm using a 3/16 2-flute high-speed steel end mill. So I got to go a little bit wider, so I'll make one pass. I'll move my Y direction negative 20 thousandths, do an air pass, and move my Y direction positive 20 thousandths in the 0. And then we'll do a test fit. That should be pretty darn close. Now I'm touching my Z off the top of the wood, and I'm going to go down 1/8 of an inch. Let's make some chips. Let's see if that Lexan fits. Look at that. Goes in there tight, but that's going to be really good. After I sand the edges here, it'll be perfect. So next I'm going to drill a hole, and I'm going to use the drill that was my tap size for 1024. I'll explain that in a minute. We got a hole right in the center of the groove. I'm going to take this over to my belt sander, and without the belt sander running, I'm just going to rub this on the belt to get rid of any burrs that we have on there. So now I have these two jagged, broken pieces of Lexan polycarbonate, and I got to decide which one is going to become the push stick. This one's got this big crack in there, so we'll just eliminate that one. So of the two, I believe this is the best candidate. So we just got to find, I think this is it here. So I'm just going to lay this out, and we'll take it to the table saw, and we'll cut it to size. So with that laid out, let's go over to the saw and start trimming this up. So this is kind of oddly shaped. So the first thing we're going to do is kind of square it up as best as possible. So that turned out, pretty close to the original. I took a little extra stock off of here to make it a little lighter. Next we got to put the holes in there for the handle. For that, let's go over to the drill press and find a Forstner bit. I was thinking about doing this on the Bridgeport Mill, but my friend Josh would complain saying he doesn't have one. So we're going to do it on the drill press. 1 3/8 Forstner bit. Got a piece of plywood for a backer. Don't know how well this is going to work, but let's try it out. The friction from the Forstner bit really heats up the plastic, and it smells like melting plastic here. So I'm going to let this cool off here and have to do a couple passes here, because you want it to cut, not melt. If it melts on here, it's a gooey mess, and then it cools and hardens, and it's really hard to get off. Off camera, I'm going to take this to the belt grinder and break all these edges, and I'll come in here with a file and just hand file that kind of smooth. It's all been sanded, deburred, and filed in its final form. Now we got to drill and tap 1024 threads right here in the Lexan. The hard part is, how do I hold my drill and keep it straight and find the center of the edge of the Lexan so when I tap it, it goes in straight. Well, to do that, we're going to use our piece that we milled and drilled as a tap guide. I'm 1.25 inches from the bottom, and I got a line here as a center line. That will just snap on there. And now I just got to do my best to drill in straight. Now that I got it started, I'll continue without the block of wood. Let's try the nylon bolt in there. All we need is 3 or 4 threads to hold it in there. All right. Now back to the Bridgeport Mill, and we're going to turn that hole into a slot so we can adjust this up and down as the bottom of it gets chewed up. So we have our part back in the mill. Now remember, you can do this with a router table if you had a router table. I don't have one. And we're going to make that hole into a slot that's 1 inch long. So now we have a slot in there. Off camera, I'll hit this with some sandpaper and get any burrs or rough edges on there out. So here's our nylon bolt with a nylon wing nut. Put a little nylon washer on there. This slides really nice. And now we just screw it on. We just got to get a couple turns in there. You can see it threading in there nice. We can tighten up our wing nut. And there it is. So as this gets chewed up and used, we can cut it off flush and keep sliding this down. Or if we have a very thick piece of wood, we can slide it down. Once this is all chewed up, we can flip this piece around and use it again. So that's how it looks. Let's go over and make a cut. So when you make your cut, it's not bad out here. I have this one and I really like because it pushes it down to the table. But as you push in, you want to push off the back of the board here. And that's when I'll grab this. So with this push stick, you got a nice firm grip here, and it keeps your fingers up real high. You don't have to lean all the way over to push it all the way through. It's got my nice adjustable heel on here. I think it turned out real nice. So the Lexan I got free. I don't remember where I got it. Piece of wood was just a scrap laying around. The bolt, the wing nut, and the washer I bought at my regular hardware store, and that was about $1.25 and a little bit of time. You too could make one. This does not have to be a Lexan. This can be out of plywood, and you can drill and tap and screw into plywood just like the Lexan. So before I decided to make it out of Lexan, I was going to make it out of plywood, and I was practicing drilling and tapping into this edge here. And I'll screw this in. Just use a regular tap and a regular drill. Screw it in there, and I cannot pull that out. So make it out of plywood, make it out of Lexan. Most important is, it's fun and easy to make. This is MKE Gadgets. Thanks for taking the time to view my video. Please support me by subscribing to my channel and share this with your friends. Thanks, we'll see you tomorrow.